Welcome, Dr. James Beckett, Sports Card Insights with John Clemens. Return visit. We're going to talk about his favorite set, his current pursuit, which is 57 Tops, which is a set that I loved. I'll wait for the episode to tell you my experience at 57 Tops, and John and I will share our stories about that great set. It's one of Rich Klein's favorite for the purity of the design and the great player selection. So thanks, sponsors. Beckett Media, Beckett Grading, Beckett Authentication, ComC.com, Heritage Auctions, Huggins Scott Auctions, Mike Stadium Sports Cards, Burbank Sports Cards, Panini, Upper Deck, and Tops. So welcome, John Clemens. We're going to talk about your favorite set and one of my favorite sets, 1957 Tops Baseball. Oh, by the way, I didn't make that clear, but 1957 Tops also football. Didn't know if in your collecting story, it sounds like you're pretty much a baseball guy.
Oh yeah, baseball.
And football, even though the football cards were out there later in 57, it sounds like you were a 57 Tops baseball guy. So welcome to the show and tell us how you began your pursuit and why 57 Tops as opposed to 56 was my first card, or 58 or anything else. Give us a real pep talk on 57 Tops baseball.
what it's all about. When my grandfather, who was suffering from throat cancer, came to live with us in Rochester, New York, death did not come very easy for him. And we had to stay out of the house as kids. So we were relegated to the cement floor in the garage. And I vividly remember 3 or 4 of my chums, my friends, we would sit there and on this concrete floor in the garage in Rochester, in Penfield, New York, and try to keep quiet and still traded baseball cards. And, we used to think that, that was being, ostracized. But now that I look back at my age and long for those days of trading baseball cards, swapping, flipping, all the things we did in the concentration that year was the 1957 set. And back then, Jim, I was not a fan of the Yankees, because the Yankees radio and TV market really saturated Rochester, New York. You were either listening to a ball game of the Rochester Red Wings minor league team, or you had the Yankees on the radio listening. So I really got tired of the Yankees, and those are the cards, the Yogi Berra, the Mickey Mantle, what have you. Those are the cards I traded off or put in the spokes of my bicycle. But still, now to this day, I've been collecting the 57 cards, and a lot of the card shops here in Dallas have got my want list, and this is what I want, and this is what I'm willing to trade for. It's the pursuit, it's part of the passion of collecting. It is the journey that you're on collecting, and you meet some fine people, whether you go to a baseball card show or you go to a baseball card shop or online. It's the people you meet along the way that share your passion. I'll tell you, my wife does not share my passion for collecting 1957 baseball cards. When are you going to throw this stuff out? Get rid of all this junk. But to me, it's treasures, it's gems, it's diamonds, it's rubies.
John, are you saying that when you look at your 57 Top set, you see more than just the cards you have? Are you saying in some cases you see the card and you can remember who you got the card from?
Oh, yeah.
How you paid, who you got it from, or where you found it?
Yeah. That's part of the thrill, because I remember I was 18 years old, and I just returned from Buffalo, New York, for my Army physical. And my mother told me, if you're old enough to serve your country, you're too old for baseball cards. I threw them all out. And it was a fan box, Jim, a great big fan box full of baseball cards that I wrapped up in rubber bands and, numerically had them all ordered. In fact, you like this story. I haven't seen this, but the story goes that there was a baseball card shop with a basket of vintage baseball cards from 1957 in a glass case. And the sign read, "These are the cards your mother threw out." That's part of the passion.
I want to go claim them. That's I don't enjoy hearing those stories. I think they're painful. But it brings to mind that, I've done some then and now episodes, and I've not really done one about trading. But trading back in the day was more about passion than price guides. I mean, I was in the Pittsburgh area, and I wasn't going to trade Roberto Clemente for any stack of cards, I don't think. But I probably would have traded Mickey Mantle. But I don't know that I would have, nowadays, a fair trade, with current prices, it would be 100 for one or 1,000 for one. But in those days, it probably was 2 or 3 for one. It was just the days were much simpler then, and trading was a real fun part of the experience. My other question for you, besides trading, is the collectible condition that you accepted back in the day as opposed to now. I
It didn't
find
matter.
it curious that people that are in a proximity of our age, who were very happy with very good condition cards back when they were a kid, now want gem mint of the
Right.
same card,
Right. But
which means it was untouched
but
and
Jim,
unplayed.
back then we didn't know a vinyl, a vinyl sleeve. I mean, we didn't know that. I would keep some of my cards that were precious to me back then. I would keep them in a mailing envelope, a white mailing envelope. I didn't have vinyl cards or vinyl sheets back then to insert the cards, protect them, and what have you. Nowadays, I mean, they're pristine. The ones that are high grade and are in good condition are preserved, like a museum piece, and they should be at that price.
So what collection are you looking for? Because I mean, if you, like I said, there's some amazing sets of 57 tops that are slabbed up and very high grade, and that is more difficult to look through than just having a set that's in reasonable condition but not perfect. Which kind of collector are you?
I, I'm the kind of guy that's going to break into a plastic case just so I can touch the card. It's the touch, it's the
Okay.
feel, it's what you get from your fingertips when you have a chance, an opportunity to think back of everything that has happened in your life and in history in the country and in your family all over those years. I have broken into cases just so that I can touch the card. I mean, it's that much of a sickness to me.
Well, I don't know that that's sickness. I think it's a passion, but it brings to new light a new approach to some of the people that criticize the people that take cards out of the slabs, but only because they're saying that people are taking it out of one company's slab and trying to resubmit it to another company to get a higher grade, and you're
Yeah.
just trying to take it out to touch the card. But taking cards out of the slabs is not. Again, we haven't discussed this on the show either. I mean, you can hurt yourself if you do it wrong. Have
Oh
you,
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it's like broken glass.
it's
But
like it can. I wear safety goggles.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't blame you. The thing that bothers me about things like that is the fraud that comes up so often with cards like that. Trimmed edges, things like that. You read about these stories, you're just like, how can they do that? How they're trying to make a quick buck off of collectors. It's sickening.
Well, do you think somebody's made a quick buck off you? Do you think you have some trim cards or
Oh,
older cards in your collection?
I'm the kind of guy. I had in a 1957 set a piece of the corner taken out. I think Carl Furillo's in there, and Roy Campanella, the one that
Oh, the Dodger Slugger card,
yeah, the
400.
Dodger Slugger card. Yeah, those it had a piece of the corner missing, and I bought it. I think I paid $25 for it just so I could have it
Yeah.
in my collection. So when the day comes, I get a perfectly good card or a better quality card. I would put it back in my collection and resell this or trade the one I do have. But that Dodger Slugger card is precious to me, even with the ripped off corner.
Well, the 57, I think, was kind of the first set to do those kind of combo cards,
Yeah.
other than Brothers. So there had been some Brothers cards,
Yeah.
things
And
like that. But
McMahon and Yogi Berra's in there.
Balin Barra, and one of the things back in the neighborhood, as well as over the years, you can kind of see where somebody's loyalties were by which of those two iconic cards, the Mantle Barra and the Hodges Campanella, Snyder, and Furillo, the Dodger Slugger or the Yankee Sluggers, because I guess you were in Rochester. I was probably in the Pittsburgh area, but the hobby, not the hobby, but collecting it was kind of New York centric. There were three teams in New York,
Right.
and they were that was a big deal. So I would yeah
I have
I
cards in
would,
my collection, Jim, that have got when a player was traded, they would cross off White Sox with a pen. But I've got the card, so that means a lot to me. I've got the card and I can hold it and I can feel it.
well, that's it would mean a lot to me if I found some cards that were, and they weren't 57s, but my 61s that I don't have anymore. They have JB on the back. Now I hope nobody will doctor it up. I don't think anybody would go to that length, but I'm not going to say what kind of if it's in a Sharpie, I'll know that people are fooling me. But I had some JB on the back of my cards, and I guess we were flipping them. And if you didn't have an identifier, you didn't know which ones were yours. I mean, I'm trying to figure that out. So I wouldn't mind having some JB cards in my collection.
What are the chances?
But JC, John Clemens, not so much.
That's
That'd be a nice story. But and I did an episode. What's on the back of the card isn't as big a deal as they're when kids, at least of my age, when they were sometimes they scratch out the team name on the front of the card, and it's a little distracting. On the back of the card, not as much.
I even have a series of Tommy John cards, so that when I talk to a young collector, and I love talking to young collectors, you can collect cards from Japan, you can collect Australia cards, international cards, the Negro Leagues, what have you. I've got a bunch of Tommy John cards. So when I talk to them about Tommy John, they think Tommy John is like one word for surgery, for shoulder surgery. And I say, no, this is a real ball player. Here's one of his cards. He was a baseball pitcher.
Well, what are your favorite cards in 57 Tops? I know you get a kick out of the reverse negative Hank Aaron. I think the Mickey Mantle, which I think is card 95, is actually, I don't know that it's a single print, but it was always tougher for me to find. And the two combo cards, the checklist cards are very tough with both variations. I don't know if you are a master set kind of guy.
Especially the cards that don't have the pen marks across them.
Yeah, and the semi-high, that next to last series with Brooks Robinson and Sandy Koufax. I mean, there's some really tough cards in there. So what are your favorites?
I don't have it yet, but it has to be the Mickey Mantle card.
Yeah.
As I'm talking to you in my studio where I work now for USA Radio Network, I have a sign right in front of me that says, "If I knew I was going to live so long, I would have taken better care of myself." Yeah. Signed Mickey Mantle. And, that means a lot to me. And I see that every day. And it's got to be Mickey Mantle.
I had a 57 Tops Mickey Mantle, just to be self-disclosing here, and I didn't do this, but I got it, through buying some collection sometime. And it actually had, you've heard of the hairline crease? Well, this was a hairline rip.
Oh, wow.
Basically a Mickey Mantle card, 57 Tops, that was torn partially, not all the way across vertically, but it was torn into the card, but it was such a clean tear that if you kind of mashed it down, you couldn't see it. If you just took a photo of it, you couldn't see.
It looked like a pristine card.
It looked like a really nice card. And I didn't sell it in any nefarious way. I mean, I'm sure that when I sold it, I disclosed that it was ripped, but you can't glue it back together. But it just, if you looked at it from one angle, it looked fine. But if you did the John Clemens technique of putting it in your hand and feeling it, uh-oh.
It might fall apart.
So it's unintentionally altered in a way that, and I don't even know what the condition would be. But for example, it sounds to me like I'm not saying you may be the more, I believe that there are more collectors that are less condition sensitive than there are that are more condition sensitive.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So if somebody had picked up my card, I don't think you'd kick it out of your collection unless you got something better. But like I said, at first glance, it's a very nice looking card, but it would probably grade a 1 or maybe just authentic.
Right.
It really crushes the value of a card. So,
but again, you would have that card.
You have the card.
Yeah, that's the key. And just, this will sound weird, but touching it to me and just holding it in my hand means a lot.
Well, we're out of time, and you've heard it from John Clemens, who is an authority on, as a media professional and loves 57 Tops, and it's all about the feel, and I cannot disagree with that. So thanks, John. Thanks, listeners. I'll be back again tomorrow with another interesting episode.